Welcome back to Powered by Instinct. I'm Stephanie Clergé, VP of People and Product Development at Kolbe Corp, and my MO is 8363. Today, we're talking about how you can infuse Kolbe into your organization's culture. And not only that, we're going to talk about why you should take the time to really, build in a strengths-based culture with the power of Kolbe. It's one thing to have your Kolbe A index and to take it and then kind of move on with life or business. But the magic really happens when you can infuse Kolbe into your daily interactions and to get those great business results. And so here to give us some really specific examples is a very special guest. I'm so excited to be here today. And we are with the CFO and CHRO of Riff Agency. And also she's an amazing coach and consultant, just so many things. We are here so excited to welcome Shara Wokal. So welcome to Powered by Instinct, Shara.
Thank you. I am stoked to be here.
I'm excited for us to get a chance to talk and to share all of this with our listeners. So Shara, can you just tell everybody your MO?
Yes, it is 8771.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to get to talk, a little bit about you and your some personal stuff in just a bit, but I really want to start with kind of the key question that we started with in the intro. So why do you think it's important to infuse an instinctive strengths-based culture into your organization?
Yeah, the thing is, whether you know about it or not, your MO is real. Your instincts are real. And so understanding what they are is power, and knowledge is power. And so understanding that for yourself, understanding that for your teammates just helps everyone work better together.
Absolutely. I love that you said that it's real, whether you know it or not. And a lot of people kind of stop at that knowing part, but it's really kind of trying to figure out how do we incorporate this into the way we do business on a regular basis. So who you can count on in specific situations, who's going to be energized by specific tasks. Who are the best collaborators that, the people that you're going to work with, do you need a clone? Do you need a compliment? So many aspects to knowing your MO that's really helpful in an organization. So let's talk a bit about how you do this at Riff. So what is Riff? How many people? Kind of give us a little bit of an intro to the company.
We have 18 people and we are a creative agency. So, if we were to bottom line it, we help businesses move from idea to execution. And we do that with a variety of services, web, strategy services, coaching, design, you name it. If somebody has an idea, then we have a way to help you achieve it.
Awesome. I love that. And so how do you introduce Kolbe to the folks in your organization? And actually, I think, you work with more organizations than just Riff, right? So you've been doing this with for a long time with lots of folks. So feel free to kind of blend in stuff beyond just Riff too, if you'd like.
Yeah, personally, I support a portfolio of companies, so 9 total. So I get the opportunity to really show a variety of different businesses and people Kolbe and help them understand that. So with Riff specifically, and with all of the businesses, we use Kolbe as part of the interview process. So we don't use it as a filtering out tool. Primarily, we use it for information. And there was early conversations about whether or not, because there is a cost associated with it, especially because with each candidate, we also do a full interpretation. So, there's a people cost to it, but we consider it a gift. Like I said, people are using their instincts, whether they know about it or not. And so the more you know, then the more you can really manage them in a way that's best for everybody involved, including yourself. So we do that. Of course, when we identify that we need a position, we leverage the Kolbe C to really identify what it is we want within that position. And then we use all of the different things that Kolbe has to offer. So we use right fit, we use after hiring. So once we've hired, then we do spend more time with the new hire going through their interpretation and kind of helping them understand who their teammates are as well. So we will do A to A's with the individual and the people who they will be working most closely with. Every week, we have an all-team meeting. So we always infuse Kolbe as part of a conversation in there. Sometimes we'll talk about different rule, one of the 5 rules. Sometimes we'll talk about clonables. We'll talk about patterns. We invite people to share stories. Often we get really funny stories about how people have seen others' MO show up. So, one example was someone was getting a little frustrated about another teammate not putting the Windex away on the right shelf. And so when they really got to thinking about it, they recognized that there was a component of both of their MOs in play there. And so they shared that story and everyone got a good laugh out of it. We also talk about the hierarchy a lot and creative process. So how do we manage our own time and energy by understanding the hierarchy, asking people where they are on the hierarchy? If we have a really important meeting where we need people extremely high, level 5, then we'll identify where they are at the very beginning of that meeting. And if they aren't able to be at a level 5, then maybe they just come to the next meeting.
Wow, so much, so much there. So let me start with where you started, which was kind of, I love that as a CFO of the organizations, you talked about, there's obviously some hard costs with giving people indexes, but really there's the people cost. But it sounds like you guys have done the ROI and find that there is an ROI there using Kolbe in hiring, but then using Kolbe in onboarding, and then using Kolbe with teams, and then beyond, and really kind of infusing it into some of the, team meetings and some of the other processes that are there. So that's the first thing I wanted to just kind of anchor, is that I love that, we talked to a lot of folks who are, coaches and consultants and HR professionals, which of course you do all of that too. And seeing your MO, it's a little bit easy to figure out how you can handle all of that. But getting the CFO perspective, I love that as well. And then it also, the other thing that really struck me as you were talking is it sounds like you were doing so much kind of advanced conversation with Kolbe. There's a lot of, organizations who, do the interpretations and they kind of are like, okay, here's your strengths. And so here they are. And you guys are digging deep. So how do you manage to make that happen? How does an employee, for example, understand something like the creative process or the hierarchy? What kinds of things do you do to help people with that?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, we teach it. So, we help people understand what it is, that it actually exists. And then we're very intentional from a leadership perspective about consistently talking about it, using examples as a way to illustrate it. And then it does not take long before someone recognizes the impact of when they know the information, how that can positively impact not only their work, because they can be more free to be themselves and communicate what that is, and others are more open to receiving that feedback and helping others have the freedom to do it their way, focusing on the result and communicating the expectation there versus the how, really giving space for people to be free to do it their way.
Yeah, I love that. I think, sometimes people are looking for what's the solution. And of course, we have all kinds of great solutions. We've got Kolbe cards, we've got an Activate Your A guide, we've got free webinars, we've got, team sessions that, you can do. But really, it comes from, those conversations and from someone, in this case your leadership team, really choosing to make Kolbe a priority, to have those conversations on a daily basis and really link it to what individuals are doing, and are they free to be themselves and all of that. So I love that. And I know you guys also invest in a fair amount of leadership experiences for Kolbe experiences for your leadership team, whether it's working with Kathy and master classes and all kinds of coming to our annual conference and all kinds of other stuff. So I know that's good support too. That's awesome. Yeah. And I was telling people before I got on, I was like, I think this podcast with Shara is going to be 2 parts, because there's just so much that she has to cover, because there's probably some of the folks who are, absorbing this podcast who don't know anything about the 5 rules or the hierarchy or the patterns, because some of those things are such advanced concepts. But I think it really just kind of shows the depth that you guys are going to when it comes to Kolbe.
Yeah.
So I love that. And then, we've kind of talked about some of the conversations and some of the theoretical stuff, but I know you guys also do some physical stuff, like in your workplace, that kind of keeps Kolbe alive. So mind menus and things like that. Can you give me a few examples of what you do?
I have an example here. So, it lives on my desk, and it was actually from a KolbeCon. We received it, and it's the hierarchy in a very tangible form. We do the mind menus. We also look at what somebody's MO is and how best we think the physical environment should be set up to support them. So for instance, I know from conversations with Kathy that someone who initiates an implementer is likely to do best if they have access to being able to see outside, if they're close to a window, if there's plants, if there's a space that they can get up and touch things and tangibly demonstrate things. And so we design our work environment to be able to support.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that kind of stuff is so important, really figuring out, what are the needs in the physical space, and that's something that companies can take on, whether you're in the office and having folks come in, whether you are working from home, people still can take that part of the concept into how they are working from home. Or if you have a hybrid where they're doing a little bit of both, you want to make sure that both are optimized, not just for, some of the aesthetic or, business needs that people have, but also for their cognitive needs. So I know for myself as an 8 in Fact Finder, I actually need my resources right next to me. So when we were building out our office spaces, we made sure that even though we have some drop-in desks for people, we kind of have a set of books that are all here that we reference often so that everybody kind of has their reference materials that are right at their fingertips. So I love that you're doing that with mind menus, which is just a physical representation of the bar chart. And you've got your hierarchy pyramid at your desk and all the things that kind of remind you of all things Kolbe. So I love that as well. And then what about some other cultural elements? Some of them probably aren't Kolbe specific, but I know that you guys do some really cool things. I've heard we're so excited to have our VP of Youth and Education actually spend some time in your offices this summer, just kind of working out of the office as she was working from offsite. And she talked to us about gratitude, something about a gratitude box or something. Can you tell us about that? That sounds fun.
Yeah, so we start every meeting with really talking about gratitude, wins, creating space for people to share things that they're excited about personally, professionally. So one of my things that I mentioned in a meeting earlier today was this podcast, really being excited to get some time to chat with you. And so we also invite people to share in gratitude and cheers with one another. We have a variety of mediums to do that, both in software and then in tangible form to be able to recognize others in that and publicly and one-on-one. So
I love that. And I love that, it seems like many of the things you do, you figure out a way to do it online, you figure out how to do it in person, you figure out how to make it a conversation. And I think that's one of the keys of doing Kolbe well and just having a great culture in general is, making sure that people have different channels or avenues, both that work for their MO, but also for their other parts of the mind and wherever they are, because employees these days aren't always in the office. And so you need ways that you can work with them that aren't just specific to the times when you're getting together for a physical team meeting or that kind of thing.
yes, absolutely. And, recognition that the way that I would do it may not be the way that somebody else will do it or would be comfortable in receiving it. And so, what we say is we hire the whole person. We don't just hire the person to sit with their butt in the seat and do the job. We find value in engaging with people as whole people. And so understanding how they will do best, both in receiving and, what their preferences are as well, the affect component of it.
Yeah, I love that kind of three parts of the mind approach, but also whole person. And you guys have even kind of gone outside of just the person themselves at certain points too, right? And actually had folks use Kolbe with their families. Is there anything you
Yes.
want to share about that?
Yeah, we do that often. We offer that for any of our employees. If they have immediate family members who they're interested in taking Kolbe, we will pay for that for them. And then if they want to extend that out, then, we also offer that as an option if they want to pay for the assessment. We do have for one in not specifically, but one of the other businesses for anniversaries, we have a variety of things that people can select from as recognition. And one of those things is Kolbe assessment and interpretation for a family member or friend, whoever they want to give it to. So we also, again, so believe in that the power of the knowledge of understanding your instincts that's why we do it.
I love that. I mean, there's so many companies that, give a watch or give some sort of trinket, a mug, or whatever people give, or a gift card. And I love that you guys consider Colby a gift, because it really is. It is a gift to understand your strengths. And it's definitely a gift to understand the strengths of your family members, your kids, your significant others, other people who are in your life. And so I love that is one of the options for anniversaries. That makes me so happy. And that you pair it with an interpretation, because although it's amazing to have someone take the Kolbe A index, and they can obviously listen to the audio online with Kathy, which is amazing, but having the opportunity to talk it through with someone as well, I think adds just so much value to that. So many great ideas. I love everything that you guys are doing. Okay, so I promised earlier that we would talk a little bit more about you, because your MO, everyone's MO is amazing, but yours is kind of unique, that some people may not have seen an 8771 or a similar pattern. So I'd love to just kind of learn just a little bit about you personally. So when were you first introduced to Colby?
In 2017, before I was hired, it was part of my candidate process.
Okay. All right. And so how do you see your MO play out each day?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's somewhat difficult for me to pinpoint exactly what that looks like for me. It feels very fluid. And I think because I'm initiating in 3 zones, or in 3 modes, I feel like I bounce around between them based on what's needed for me in the moment. And so the patterns really resonate with me. My pattern is I've got this. And so again, that again feels very fluid to me. One of the best descriptions I can give with an example of how it plays out is two actually. So when I will go and go and go, and then there will come a point, if I don't feel like I have a full sense of what's on my plate, it's like my follow through is a stop sign for me. And it's like, nope, you have to stop until you organize your desk, organize your mind in a way that you have the sense to visualize everything that you need to do going forward. So there is a point for me where my follow through kind of aids me in that. And then one of my more recent learnings is, and again, this is knowledge is power. This was happening. I just wasn't aware of why. And so I do my best when I am either all in or all out. I don't know how to be half in, half out of something. And so there was an instance recently where I was being asked to kind of have 1 foot in and 1 foot out of a project, and I was really struggling with it. And so in recognition in thinking about it, recognizing why, it's because of my MO. Of course, I have to be all foot on the gas or nothing at all. And so now that I know that, I have been able to ask for what I need to be able to satiate those components of me feeling like I'm all in without me doing all of the work. And so that's just been within the last month, and it's been a game changer.
Wow, yeah, that is an absolutely amazing insight to be able to have that, because, people probably look at your MO and assume that it just means that, I mean, the all in part obviously makes sense, but people probably just assume you never get stuck. So you're first learning about kind of which part of your MO, which mode to kind of lean into, and to lean into that follow through. And that's what really kind of helps you reset by that organizing, but also the 1 foot in and out, kind of how that can be difficult. And that's what Kathy, I think, means, when she talks about being free to be yourself. It's not just like la 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 la, I can kind of do it, right? She says be
Right.
obstinate, right? And you've got to kind of fight for the freedom to be yourself. And so
Yeah.
you have to be able to articulate those needs to other people. So I love to hear you talking about that. And I assume you also sometimes just hit a wall, right? Even your follow through kind of can't save you. So
Yeah.
what do you do to kind of rejuvenate, or how do you know when you need to rejuvenate?
Yeah, I have a trend in my own, what I call my own time cycle. So I've recognized that about every 6 days is when I need to take a break. So I can be full in for those 6 days, but I usually spend 1 day on the weekend where I do nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing except sit on the couch and watch TV. And that's it. So when I'm able to take that time, then I'm able to go, the next 6 days or so. And of course, it's not a science like at 6 days, I'm going to fall over if I don't have that day. If I have something to do on that day on the weekend, I will still be able to live, but
Sure.
I I will not be as productive during that next week. And so now that I know that about myself and I'm able to communicate that, it's not a problem.
I love it. I love it so much. It's great to kind of, we always talk about our strengths and clearly, our MO is built of our four Colby strengths, but it really that energy piece, I think people miss out on really kind of recognizing your energy flows and how to sort of manage them. So I think you're such a great role model for that. So thank you so much for sharing.
One thing that I've noticed is my increased understanding of the hierarchy. I'm able to self-manage my energy by moving myself up and down the hierarchy based on what's needed from me in that moment or on that project or in that meeting. And so I have found that that's helped me kind of extend my time when needed.
Awesome. Well, yeah. And for those people who don't understand what we're talking about when we talk about the hierarchy, so it's Kathy Kolbe's hierarchy of human effort. And it's really a model that kind of helps you understand in all three parts of the mind how much effort are you putting into a specific task or, something that you're doing, a specific commitment or deliverable, right? And so are you kind of at a very baseline level where you're just kind of intending to do something or attempting to do something, or really have you made a commitment to do it? Or maybe you're even going on above that where it's really your purpose or it's your mission and you're kind of, it's beyond just yourself and you're sometimes even giving back, to the broader community through whatever that is. So it's a really great way to kind of understand because you can't commit to everything, one of Kathy's rules, right? Commit to but to very little, right? So figuring out where are you putting that effort, where are you putting that energy, and it's really helpful too as a leader to understand some of that when you're working with others to kind of figure out, are they, at least at that commitment level, or what kinds of conversations need to happen there. So it is a great model and something that I know Shara and a couple others on her team have really worked hard to understand and all of that. You can learn a little bit more in one of Kathy's books, Powered by Instinct, if you're interested in that as well. Okay, so one last question about you, and then unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I did want to just ask, why did you decide to become a Colby certified consultant? I mean, you're doing the CFO thing, the CHRO thing, you're coaching people, you're doing all this stuff, but why did you decide to get certified and stay certified in Colby?
Yeah, it's multifaceted. One, I just love to learn, as I've talked about. I think knowledge is power, especially when it comes to something that just is inherently true. And I have felt personally and witnessed how this information changes people's lives. It is not a rare occurrence in an interpretation where someone's getting their result for the first time for tears to be involved, for comments like, well, this is the first time that I've felt seen, or I thought I was the only one who was experiencing this in school, or, those sorts of things to help people recognize that their score is perfect. It's perfectly who they are, and they have the ability to contribute to an organization, to a team based on who they are. So yeah, that's why.
I love that. That's so perfectly articulated. Once you have one of those experiences with someone where whether it's tears or whether it's just that aha, where it's like, I knew this about myself, but no one had ever said it out loud, or I've never been able to like see it on paper, right? Once you've kind of experienced somebody having that insight, it's hard to ever let go. You kind of want to have more and more of those experiences. So I think that's why a lot of us, gravitate towards Colby. As you mentioned, it's that truth. And when you can help others see that truth, and then learn to apply it to the things they care about most. That's really what our mission is. So yeah, I love that as well. Is there anything else that you want to say that we haven't covered about, how Riff or some of the other companies use Colby, or any other stories about yourself?
I would just say that in my experience, the way to be successful in infusing such an important piece into the culture is the consistency. So it's easy to get caught in the day-to-day tasks of what need to be done. And so connecting it back to the core of what it is you're working to infuse, in this case, Colby, is extremely important. And that's what's going to give the longevity. And then it won't be long before others on the team help pick that up. And it just becomes a lot of momentum moving forward. So that's what I would recommend to anyone looking to really make this a foundational piece of their culture. And there is so much to it. So like you said, Stephanie, it's easy to just kind of stop at the A result and say, okay, well, this is what it is. But there are so many other things that Kolbe offers that allows you to really leverage the full breadth of the theory into the organization. So BC's, like we talked about, creative process hierarchy. So I would recommend really, well, of course, my impact finder would recommend really digging into all of them, because there is value in all of them and they don't work in silos. And so the more that you can understand each of them, the more you can see the connections. Yeah. So that's it.
I love it. And yeah, I mean, having those champions, and in your case, it's obviously amazing when it kind of comes top down from the leadership team, because, that's certainly going to keep it going. But finding those Kolbe champions in your organization, whoever they might be, that kind of are keeping the conversations going and nudging a little and figuring out how you can continue to infuse it into whatever it is that you're doing. I think that definitely makes so much of the difference. So thank you for highlighting that. Okay, well, this was amazing to get all of the great stuff that you've done. And I know you guys are going to continue to just do so much great work out there in the community and infused with Kolbe. And so that's wonderful. But thank you so much for your time. It was amazing getting a chance to just spend a little bit of time learning and chatting together. So yeah, where can our listeners go to hear more about Riff? They want to find out more what you're doing.
Online is the best place to start. So Riff Agency, and there's contact information there for us if you want to engage beyond just looking at our website.
Awesome. Fantastic. That sounds great. Well, thanks again so much for your time. As always, the best place to start if you want to hear more from us here at Kolbe and learn how to infuse Kolbe into your culture, finding the freedom to be yourself, start with taking the Kolbe A Index at kolbe.com. And then there's a ton of other resources there that you can make use of. And of course, contact us as well. And if you're looking to find a Kolbe certified consultant in your area, be sure to use our handy search tool on kolbe.com to find that expert near you. And we'll see you next time on Powered by Instinct.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Powered by Instinct. This show is brought to you by Kolbe Corp, a company that helps leaders and organizations thrive using the only instinctive strengths assessment on the market. If you enjoyed this episode, then follow Powered by Instinct wherever you get your favorite podcasts, or join us online at kolbe.com/podcast for all the latest episodes.